Hello and welcome to John and Letty's podcast. We're starting a new series today and we're really excited about it because this is a topic that is really, really popular.
Yes, it is. It's about how to find your spouse, husband, wife. So we're looking to see all those people that are single that say, how do I find someone? Every generation has to go through this question.
Yes.
And then we also want to make a good choice because when the person you marry determines a lot about your future and about your life.
And because we have been married for so many years and a lot of young people see us and see how we interact and how our marriage is, we get a lot of people asking questions about how we met, how did we know that we were the one, and things like that. So we thought it would be a good, important topic to help out those people out there that are ready to get married or that think they're ready to get married and are struggling finding their spouse.
Yes. So we have guidance and things that worked out for us and also guidance from the Word of God as to what could we do to try not to make a mistake in this area and how to have a successful marriage. I mean, there are rules, there are concepts that if we apply them, they will help you for your entire life. And we have done that and we are evidence that it works.
Yes, and the first thing that we see with some young people is that they have a lot of worry and a lot of anxiety about this topic and worrying about their future, if they're going to find their spouse, if they're going to choose the wrong person, how are they going to choose the right person. And our first piece of advice is do not worry about this. Relax, because things have a way of working out. If you don't get anxious, if you get anxious or if you're afraid or too worried, there's more chances that you're going to make a mistake. But if you relax and be yourself and pray and things will work out, right?
Yes, and particularly be involved in social situations where you would have people who would have similar kind of values at you. That would be a place where you could start interacting, because if you're just all the time like hidden or at home or completely busy and you're not available, then obviously it's going to be much more difficult to find someone with whom you could be compatible.
And that was one of the things that we heard, that during the pandemic, a lot of the young people became really anxious about this topic because of the lack of interaction. And but now, we think the pandemic is behind us, or we're not going to go into a lockdown again. So it's time to step out again and try to make new friends and things like that. And you will see that just normal, this is going to develop and you will start meeting people.
Yes. So one of the things that you have to consider is, and one of the things that will help you and make the right decision is to find a person that has similar values. Now, by that, I don't mean someone who is just like you, but I mean someone who has to come from the same value system. Why? Because that is really one of the main things that gives you a perspective, a worldview. And if you match in that, then in other things, in other words, in the general direction of life, both of you will agree and be going in the right direction, rather than having continual fighting or conflict about this worldview.
And that is why the Bible tells us not to join unequal yoke. And that is what it means. Actually, when we talk about what the Bible says about choosing your spouse, that is practically the only real specific advice that we are given. So find a person that has the same values, same beliefs, and that you know that you're halfway there already. If you're a Christian, you want to find a Christian person. But having said that, in the world that we live today, just the fact that a person says I'm Christian doesn't mean that the person will have your same values and beliefs that you have. So that's why, even though that will be the first thing you want to look at, you also want to look at the person's character. You want to see how this person behaves, how this person acts with other people, what their life is like, what are are the values that this person has. So it's not only saying, oh, I'm Christian. You want to go a little bit further. And that's why it's good to meet people in the circles of the same faith that you have, because most likely they will have your same values.
Yes, the characters, the values, the morals, the way of looking at things, the way of treating people comes from the worldview that you have. So when the Bible says do not be unequally yoked, it's speaking specifically about something like marriage and really in other relationships.
Yes.
But you have to consider, even in the Old Testament of the Bible, they were told that they had to marry amongst themselves for the strict purpose, not because of racist purposes, because it's not about race in this case, but it's just so that they would maintain the same value. The rest of the other people had different value systems, and they were completely different. So God wanted to keep them with the same viewpoint. So he said, you have to marry among yourselves. So today, now, we don't have to marry necessarily within our race or culture, but we do have to marry people, or we should, if we want to avoid problems in the future, someone who has the same values and the same way. So we have the same values. We have the same perspective towards life over all the main issues about life, and our background and our seeking God and being a part of a Christian culture, in a sense, in our lives, in our house, then gives us that. It gives us that unity. It gives us that direction. It gives us that focus. It gives us the way that we treat each other, the way we treat our children, and deal with other people.
Yes, and having said that, a lot of young people today put a lot of pressure on themselves. And what I have seen personally with the young people around me working here at the university is that a lot of our young people put so much pressure to find the perfect person. But one of the advices that we give is that first, no one is perfect.
That's right.
And when we found each other, we were far from perfect, and we are still far from perfect. So if you stop thinking about, oh, I have to find the perfect person. Oh, the person has to be like this, like this, like that. And it has such a tight list that it disqualifies just about everybody around it. So instead of thinking, I am going to find the perfect person, the mentality should be, I am going to find a suitable person, a person like what we're talking about, that has the same values, the same beliefs, that has goals that complement each other. And what we have seen in our own lives, like we said, far from perfect. And when we got together, we were not as mature. We're a little bit more mature now, 37 years later. And what we have found is that as we started to live together as a husband and wife, we became more and more perfect for each other.
Yes.
As we developed, as we grew, as we got older together. At this stage in our lives, I couldn't see myself with any other husband, and I hope that you feel the same way about me.
Absolutely.
But when we got together, maybe we couldn't have said that because we were young, we were not developing our character. So instead of looking for perfection, maybe you should look at a person that is suitable and that it has your same values, and then that you can develop together.
Yes. Another thing that we found is that you don't just necessarily find someone or are attracted to someone who is exactly like you. Question: would you marry yourself? Well, that's an interesting question. If you did, your life would be boring. So usually what happens is that you marry someone who is complementary to you, even though you don't necessarily set out to do things that way.
Yes.
But we could say that there are many aspects where you and I can complement each
Absolutely.
other. So, for example, if you were to characterize me, I would say I am more on the scientific side, and you are more on the artistic side.
Yes.
And then the two things complement each other. And not just in that, but in many other things, we find that we're different, interests and all, but we're complementary. And as long as we have the same main values, then everything really works. And what the difference does is it makes things interesting, exciting. It makes her look into things that she might not have in some other condition, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I see things that I might not have been involved in.
And that exactly happened with us. I was not interested in like science and science fiction and space and things like that. And getting together with him, I realized that I was interested in these things. I liked it. It was something that we could enjoy together.
Yes.
We started watching Star Trek and things like that. I would have never watched it before.
Yes.
And now it's one of our favorite things to do still, to watch that type of show and other things that I like that you started to like.
Yeah, I think I can recall two things that were pretty amazing that you got to see because of that. One of them was in the 1990s, a comet hit the planet Jupiter.
Oh, yes.
And I had a telescope. I was able to take it and I said, come here, you have to watch this. And she was able to actually see that happen. On another occasion, one of my hobbies is astronomy. So we went out to an observatory at the university that I was in. I had access to it. And that night we just stood there and the sky didn't look so good. It was kind of like very bright. And all of a sudden I said, hey, could this be an aurora? And there was a huge auroral display that just broke out there in the middle of the night. It was so strong that it actually came out the next day.
Yes.
It came out in the papers that event happened. And we just happened to be there because of, because I like it and you came along to
I would
see
have
this.
never been in a place like that on top of a mountain with a telescope if it wasn't for you.
Yes.
But the same thing goes for you.
Sure.
There are things that you have done because the things that I like, like going to the beach and taking walks on the beach and things like that. That's one of my favorite things to do. And you prefer to be somewhere with a book, but I drag him and he
come out and
and we do these things together.
Like that.
Yes. But let's go back to the topic. And another thing that we see important with the young people that are going through this anxiety and worry about finding their spouse is that a lot of the times they are afraid or they have fear of rejection. And sometimes they don't go up to a person because they're afraid they're going to be rejected. And that's something that we have to overcome, the fear of rejection. So one of the advices that we give young people is that don't go up to a person with the idea that this is going to be, in that first conversation, a romantic relationship. It's a good idea to approach the person as a friend, to form a friendship, to get to know each other, and then it will develop in something else, maybe. But if it doesn't, then you will gain a friend. And that is a way, having that mentality. I am going to approach this person to form a friendship. And then if you they both decide, then it may go into something else. But at least you would have a new friend.
Right. And in fact, when our relationship, it started as a friendship. And so it was later on, there wasn't this spark. So it's something you might have the person right next to you right now and not even know it. You might have them as friends and not even know it. But at some point, there will be like this interest in you. And then and it'll happen in the two of you. And at that point, you continue on in that relationship a little bit deeper or a little bit more formal as part of the relationship.
Yes, and that worked for us. We were friends first. And that's a good way of knowing if you're compatible to the person.
Yes.
When you become friends, you start to know the person at a little deeper level. You know what they like, what they don't like, what their family life is like, what their plans for the future. You learn all of those things from a friendship.
Yes.
And then, if it's meant to be, it will develop into something else. So don't discount the friendships.
Right.
But I want to talk about something else now. talking again about the fear of rejection or not being ready or whatever, when maybe a person doesn't feel that they can walk up to either a girl or a guy, feeling insecure about yourself. That's one of the reasons sometimes why people feel that they may get rejection, because they are insecure about themselves. And one of the things that you have to have is your own identity, and know who you are in God, and where you're going. You don't have to be the perfect person.
And
you
that
just
might
have to be
that
suitable.
might not be the person for you. I mean, it might be somebody else. That doesn't mean that there's a problem with you per se.
Oh, that's true. The fact that a person rejects you in a romantic way doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you.
Right.
It might be that you're not the person for that particular person. So you just move on and go and find somebody else. And eventually a person that is suitable will show up.
Yes.
And one of the things that you can do if you're in that process, whether you're a guy or whether you're a girl, and or a young woman, let's say young woman, right? Not a girl. A young woman is to better yourself. While you wait for that suitable person, better yourself. In which ways you can get better yourself? Maybe in your career, your studies, in your spiritual life, to become a person more spiritual or grow in your spiritual life, better yourself in your career, learn to do things that maybe you haven't learned yet, even personal grooming. It's a good advice. Learn how to take care of yourself and look presentable. Learn how to groom yourself. Learn to cook, how to take care of your house. All of those things make you a better, more prepared, more suitable person for when the right person comes along.
And also, you need to learn how to treat people, how to treat each other. And it's not just about each other, it's also treating others. If you're a person that mistreats other people, then that's a big red flag, because you're gonna mistreat someone once you become familiarized with them. And when you enter a relationship, you enter into a time where you're familiar. And at that point, it shows the kind of person you are. There are certain lines that you don't cross. And these lines maintain a healthy relationship for a long time.
And that's something to watch while you're getting to know a person.
Yes.
How the person treats the people around them,
Yes.
how the family life of that person is.
Yes.
And you will see red flags,
Yes.
or you will have peace of mind with this person.
Yes.
So the time that you are making friendships in with people that have your same values and the same plans, or that they have the same plans for the future, or at least compatible plans for the future. It's not a wasted time. It's a time to get to know the person, realize if this is the person for me or not. And like I said, if it's not the person for you, you gained a friend. And maybe that friend will have another friend, and that will be your future spouse.
So that takes us into strategies for meeting people, which we're not going to talk about in this podcast. That'll be another one. There also are red flags and pitfalls, which we will also discuss at some other point. And then we'll also be able to have an opportunity to bring some guests and speak about having a relationship with someone, a healthy relationship, so that you can find your husband, your wife, and you can have a happy marriage and a productive time together.
So we hope that you liked this content that we're talking about. I hope it was a blessing to your life, and that will help you as you seek for that person that God has for you in your life. And we ask you to like this program and share it with your friends. We're going to continue to do topics like this. And actually, we will really appreciate if you comment and let us know what topics are interesting to you, and we will do our best to try to bring it to you.
So don't miss it next time.